back. Let's go straight over to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. She is, of course, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. So good to see you.
Good to have you on the show. Always a pleasure. I've been thinking about Harry and Meghan. You know, you and I discussed the other day their first ever big screen movie. It's called Cookie Queens. It's about Girl Scouts competing in the cookie baking stakes, it's an American tradition. It's quite a sweet idea, but apparently it's not a particularly good film, not particularly enjoyable, and the Variety magazine basically dismissed it as reality rubbish.
There's an important distinction between attention and audience loyalty. Harry and Meghan entered the entertainment industry with something most new producers could only dream of: instant global recognition. Their names alone could generate headlines, attract major platforms, and guarantee an enormous amount of initial curiosity. But curiosity has a short shelf life. Once the novelty wears off, audiences ultimately judge entertainment projects on the same things they judge everyone else's work on: storytelling, originality, execution, and whether they actually want to come back for more. A famous name can get a project through the door, but it cannot guarantee that viewers will stay. That's particularly relevant when former royals move into an industry where reputation and celebrity are not the same thing as creative credibility. Hollywood has always been full of famous people who discovered that being recognizable isn't necessarily the same as being able to consistently produce successful entertainment. The bigger issue, therefore, isn't whether one project performs badly. Every producer experiences failures. The real test is what happens afterward. Can the people involved learn from weak performances, change direction, and develop projects that audiences genuinely want? That's where a string of disappointments becomes much more significant than a single flop.
This is not a one-off or a warning sign. What we've established is a pattern. You know, the Polo reality series or docu-series, if that's what you want to call it, was not a commercial success for Netflix. Live to Lead was whatever the opposite of a commercial success was for Netflix. I mean, I think we constantly forget Live to Lead. Heart of Invictus was a major fail for Netflix. These are just a few of the documentary style projects that Harry and Meghan have put together that have not been successful. Of course, the Harry and Meghan docu-series reality show was a success because they were being
when they're
so
trashing
critical.
Trashing the royals, they have success. If they're not trashing the royals, they don't. That's what the Spotify boss Bill Simmons said. He said unless those two, he called them effing grifters. He said unless they're trashing the British royals, no one cares what they have to say. Let me give you a little a preview. I've written a monologue for my programme, What Just Happened, tomorrow night, that you're always on, of course, Kinsey. And I was musing about this. And I said, you know, these two don't do success. They just deliver masterclasses in how to fall flat on your face time and time again. The $100 million Netflix deal, gone. With Love, Meghan, axed. The $20 million Spotify contract cancelled. Harry's risible reality series Polo unwatched. Ms. Markle's pretentious podcasts Archetypes and Confessions of a Female Founder swiftly consigned to the scrap heap of showbiz history. American Riviera Orchard never happened. As ever. As if. And so it's everything they've done.
There's another lesson hidden inside the Sussexes' entertainment ventures. A personal brand can open doors, but it can also create enormous expectations. When Harry and Meghan entered the commercial world, they weren't starting from zero. Their royal background gave them extraordinary visibility and made them attractive partners for major companies. But that advantage comes with a catch. Every project is judged against the enormous expectations attached to their names. A lesser-known producer can release something that underperforms without becoming international news. When Harry and Meghan are involved, even a modest disappointment can become part of a much larger narrative about their commercial judgment. There's also the question of consistency. Successful entertainment businesses usually develop a recognizable pipeline, Ideas are generated, developed, produced, marketed, and released regularly. One-off celebrity projects can generate huge attention, but sustainable success requires infrastructure and creative discipline behind the scenes. This is why canceled partnerships and underperforming projects matter differently from ordinary celebrity setbacks. They can raise questions about whether the business model itself is working. At the same time, it's important not to treat every canceled project as proof of incompetence. Entertainment deals change constantly, projects get abandoned, and companies regularly restructure their strategies. The real measure is the pattern over time, and that's what makes the Sussexes' commercial journey worth watching.
Will interest them. That's how you get hits. She has no clue whatsoever, does she?
I mean, no one, when Harry and Meghan abandoned the British royal family, thought, you know what we really want or need from Meghan Markle? Flower sprinkles. I mean, that was not that, she just doesn't get it. Or even loose fruit spread. The rosé, I get, like if Meghan would have immediately pivoted from Duchess to, a rosé
purveyor of wine, that wine works.
We would have been like, yeah, okay, we get that. That's fine. But, she viciously attacked the British royal family and then basically hijacked their culture for the As Ever brand. Buy my biscuits.
Yeah.
I love putting this loose fruit spread on my scones. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like she hijacked her entire culture after ripping the British royal family and the United Kingdom apart. So she just doesn't get it.
The streaming era has fundamentally changed how entertainment success is measured. In the traditional television world, ratings and advertising provided relatively straightforward indicators. Streaming platforms, however, can keep much of their performance data private, meaning audiences often have to rely on incomplete information when judging whether a program succeeded. That creates fertile ground for competing narratives. A project can generate enormous social media attention without becoming a long-term hit, while another can quietly attract a dedicated audience without dominating headlines. There's also a major difference between launching with curiosity and building sustained demand. A famous couple can encourage millions of people to sample a program simply because they're curious. The more difficult achievement is convincing those viewers that the next project is worth watching too. For Harry and Meghan, that distinction is particularly important. Their initial fame gave them an enormous advantage in attracting attention. But entertainment companies ultimately need more than publicity. They need reliable audiences, compelling content, and projects that justify continued investment. That's why the long-term picture matters more than any individual headline. If the Sussexes continue experimenting and eventually find a format that consistently connects with audiences, earlier disappointments could become little more than growing pains. But if the pattern continues, critics will understandably begin asking whether celebrity status was ever enough to build a durable entertainment business.
About setting up these intriguing encounters. Oh, no, you do that. I'll just turn up for filming. And at that point, the whole project just died an immediate death. They're just both laughably clueless, aren't they?
Well, and keep in mind, when Harry was pitching those ideas, he was simultaneously insulting the president of the United States. He has since also insulted Putin while in Ukraine. You talk about Delulu.
Yeah.
He expects these first of all, he's done nothing. Harry has accomplished nothing to earn being in the same room with either one of those individuals. When you are a working member of the royal family, perhaps you can get in a room with President Trump or with Putin. But Harry is not a working member of the royal family. He is basically a spokesperson for ayahuasca at this point and stoner surfing here in the United States. And he hasn't earned a place in those rooms. But you certainly wouldn't go on a world tour insulting the people you're trying to sit down with. There's no way either one of those men would give this guy the time of day based on the public comments he's made about them.
The most revealing part of this story may ultimately have very little to do with one film, one streaming deal, or one disappointing launch. It's about what happens when celebrity stops being the product and starts becoming merely the marketing tool. Harry and Meghan have an extraordinary level of name recognition. The difficult question is what they can build with it. In entertainment, audiences cannot be compelled to remain interested simply because someone is famous. Attention can be purchased, headlines can be generated, and curiosity can be sparked, but loyalty has to be earned. That doesn't mean every reported setback proves the Sussexes have failed. Nor does one successful project automatically prove their critics wrong. The more meaningful verdict will come from the accumulated record, what they produce, how audiences respond, and whether major partners continue seeing enough value to invest. And that's where the next chapter becomes particularly interesting. If the Sussexes move away from high-profile entertainment altogether, does that represent a strategic reinvention or an admission that the Hollywood experiment didn't work as planned? And if they remain in the industry, can they finally produce something that shifts the conversation away from their royal history and toward the quality of their work? Because eventually, the biggest challenge for Harry and Meghan may not be getting people to watch it, may be giving them a reason to keep watching. What do you think? Are these setbacks simply part of the normal creative process, or is a clear pattern beginning to emerge? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more analysis of the stories behind the headlines.